Fingers.
Good morning. The time is now 9 o'clock and today's date is Thursday, December the 12th. We are impaneled in Baton Rouge today. My name is Ms. Ledoux. I'm chairing. To my left is Mr. Tillis and to my right is Ms. Stapleton. We have staff supporting us today.
Riley Haggard, Chiquita McWhorter.
We are hearing an offender at Rayburn Correctional. Would you please, staff there, introduce yourself?
Deputy Warden Keith Bickham.
Kristen Herbert, Records. Tracy Taylor, Classifications.
Great, thank you so much for supporting us today. I'm going to read some information into the file, sir, after you will introduce yourself with your name and your DSC number.
Yes, ma'am. John Matthew, 510-990.
Hey, Mr. Matthew, I find that you're a first-class offender. You're currently serving a 30-year sentence for second-degree kidnapping. You have a parole eligibility date, 7/18/2025, good time date of 1/22/2030, full term date of 7/17/2035. Does that sound correct?
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Matthew, if you will, before we get started, we'd like to ask you, the panel wants to hear from you why you are currently incarcerated and why do you think that this would be a good time for us to allow you to go on parole?
I'm currently incarcerated for the second-degree kidnapping of my then estranged wife in an attempt to talk to her and whatnot. I forced her to go for a ride with me so that we could, discuss matters. I was eventually arrested, charged with second-degree kidnapping, and eventually convicted of it.
Yeah, I think you're saying eventually because that was right during Katrina, wasn't it?
Yes, ma'am. Right before Katrina, the date of the incident was July 16th of 2005. I was arrested on July 18th of 2005. And then while I was in the parish jail, that's when Katrina hit.
Correct. Yes. Okay. And why should we release you? You haven't answered that part of it.
Oh, well, I mean, I could easily say I've done everything I'm supposed to do, to be released, but I mean, I'm not going to say that. I mean, my biggest thing is, I let a lot of people down, in my actions of that day, let a lot of people down, and I'd like that opportunity to redeem myself with them. When I first got incarcerated, I had, 5 sons and 2 grandchildren, 2 grandsons. I've since lost 2 sons and I've got 10 grandchildren now who don't know me. And I'd love that opportunity, to be a grandfather to them.
Well, we do have people who are here in your support today. We would like to give them an opportunity to speak. First of all, we have Lori LeBlanc, your sister, and she's prepared. She can make her statement to us at this time. I'm sorry, I think you're on mute now.
I unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to be able to speak on my brother's behalf. It's been a long 20 years since I've seen my brother. I would really like for you guys to really consider letting him out so he can lead a productive life with what time he has left on this earth, and give him the chance to be a sister to me again and a chance to be a grandfather to his grandkids. I think that's very important. I think he's done everything that he was supposed to do while he's been in prison, and he is a better man now than he was 20 years ago.
Thank you for those comments. We also have Carrie Myers with the Parole Project. Mr. Myers, if you want to address the panel.
Yes, good morning. Thank you. Kerry Myers with the Louisiana Parole Project. Here to tell you that Mr. Matthew is a client. We've accepted him as a client into our program. Mr. Matthew served 2/3 of his sentence already. He's earned 735 days of CTPR P credits. He's certainly worked hard. He's an inmate counsel. He's a trustee. He's an honorably discharged veteran. He's a true first offender. We don't believe that Mr. Matthew is any threat to public safety. The incident that took place with his estranged wife was over 20 years ago. It was certainly out of character for him. However, we are ready to assist Mr. Matthew in his transition through all the services that our program offers. It is his long-term hope that he does go out of state, but that won't be determined until he's ready to do that. So we just offering our services, our commitment to him on for whatever time he needs through his transition, and we would hope this board consider the length of time he served, the overall sentence, and his record, and grant his parole today.
Before we go any further in our hearing, I would like to hear from the warden, Deputy Warden Bickham, if you can let us know how this offender has been in your custody.
Yes, ma'am. When John first came here, it was a little difficult, but like he said, he had a couple of significant losses in his life. He came to one of our supervisors and told him, he said, I'm done, I'm through. He hadn't received it was like 2018. He hasn't received a write-up since then. He's worked his way up to trustee, inmate counsel. He worked at maintenance. He mentors our younger inmates. We have a program where they come into the system. The older guys talk to them, try to keep them from making the same mistakes here that they did. John is one of our mentors in that. He's done a ton of programming, and he has a very good work ethic.
So would you be able to address the 2012 incident?
I'm sorry?
In 2012, he had another charge while he was in custody there.
If I remember correctly, he was having a beef with another inmate, threw a book at the inmate, and then hit the officer.
Okay. And did plead guilty and all that. Okay. Thank you. We appreciate those comments.
Yes, ma'am.
We have some opposition to Mr. Matthews' release, and I would like to go first of all to Terry Matthew, the victim in this case, and she would like to address this. Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. First off, he's very manipulative, and he lies a lot. He has made phone calls to his family, telling lies, saying that I was the reason for all of this. Okay, so like, I don't even know what to say because he's very manipulative.
Right.
Have y'all gotten a divorce since all of this? I know you were an estranged wife at that time. Are you divorced now?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
At this time, we also have Assistant DA Randall Meyer from Jefferson Parish.
Good morning, Randall Meyer, Assistant DA in Jefferson, and we're opposed as well to Mr. Matthews' release. This was a very traumatic thing for Terry, and her opposition, I think, is strong. There's concern on whether he had remorse and accountability for what he has done, and that is concerning. I'm looking at his record while incarcerated. Don't see where there was a mental health evaluation or any kind of mental health treatment, which I think should be something that's required of him for this type of offense. You know, when you're getting into domestic battery type issues, domestic issues like this, I think it's important to try to find out why and try to get help for an individual before they're released back into society. And to correct one thing that Kerry Myers had said, he said the offense was over 20 years ago. It was actually just under 20 years ago. The offense happened in 2005. So for those reasons, we are opposed to his request.
Thank you, sir. This case, we're going to allow Mr. Tillis to begin the questioning. Could you switch the rooms? There you go.
Good morning, Mr. Matthews. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. Everybody's saying 1920. How many years have you been incarcerated?
I've been incarcerated. If you include the parish jail, it would be 20 years this coming July.
20 years, about. Okay. I think the warden said earlier you hadn't had any write-up since 2018.
That's correct.
Okay. What classes have you taken? I saw some classes as I read through your case. What classes did impact you the most?
Basically, living in balance. It teaches you on how to adapt to certain situations, which you deal with not only in the real world but here in prison.
What's your educational level?
Graduated high school.
Yeah, okay. What are your plans if you're granted parole? I guess to go to Louisiana parole.
From there, yeah, and eventually I'd like to be paroled to Florida. I have a younger son over there that I haven't had the opportunity to raise. I had 5 sons, and I raised 4 of them. Terry and I both raised them to adulthood. Joey was only 11 when I went away, so I would love, and I only seen him twice since then, which was at both of his older brother's funerals. So I would love to be able to establish a relationship with him once again.
So you plan to eventually move to Florida?
Eventually, yes, sir.
I see. At the time of your troubles, were you using drugs?
No, sir.
You weren't on drugs. I read that you had thought about committing suicide.
I mean, I said that, but I mean, it was never in my my plans. I mean, I remember telling my former wife one time when her brother-in-law's brother committed suicide, and she come to the car to tell me about it. I thought for a minute. I looked at her and I said, I love you, but I don't love you that much. So no, that was never a consideration.
I think I read in there where your son said you were talking about committing suicide.
I'm not aware of my son or which one would say that, though.
Okay. I have no more questions.
Hey, I've got questions. Warden Bickham, back on the suicide issue, and then also Mr. Meyer, with the DA's office, he brought it up too. What has been, I didn't read anything about a mental health evaluation for this man, and has there been one? Is there some kind of program he's in? Because we do have that in part of the investigation. And then also, I read the same thing, that a son said he had attempted suicide twice. And then during the time in the car, he was telling his wife, that's why he had the gun, that he was going to commit suicide. And she was afraid that he was going to kill her and commit suicide. So what about a mental health evaluation for this man?
That would be in his medical record, and I don't have that with me.
Uh-huh.
I can get that information for you.
Sir, did you want to talk about that? Have you had a mental health evaluation?
Yes, ma'am. Well, from the time I got here, I was seeing a social worker up until, with the mental health department up until, I think, probably 18 or 19.
Okay, so for all these years, you've been talking to a social worker about your mental health and you've had someone to discuss things with. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am. Started out here, I think it was, Miss Gina Zula originally. And then I think, now he's Assistant Warden Brooks, but Floyd Brooks was a social worker as well that I dealt with. As a matter of fact, he was the last one I was seeing prior to being, I guess, what you call released from any sort of evaluation.
So let me ask you something. Is there a domestic violence intervention program where he is at, sir, Warden? Which is different from Cage Your Rage and some of the anger management. That is not the same thing. Is there a domestic violence intervention program there?
Not here.
Not there. So is that, I mean, because that's what this all stems from. Well, it's domestic violence that could have ended up in a homicide easily. So, what's the chances of him? And so are you interested in being in a domestic violence intervention program from GAOC? Do you feel like you need that?
Are you talking to me, ma'am?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I should have said your name. Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to the warden.
Yeah, no. What is your interest in being in that type of program, a domestic violence intervention program?
I mean, if you feel, if the board feels it's necessary, fine. I mean, I have no animations towards my former wife and all that. All of that is in the past. I'm not trying to look backwards. I'm trying to move forward. With my life. That's I put all of that behind me a long time ago. All that anger that I had over it, blaming other people when, it was really all me.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about that, because I do have the police report. I do have the fact that you were calling her and she wasn't accepting your phone calls. You wanted to see her. She didn't want to see you. So that makes that's what leads to a lot of times murder. It really does. And so that led to stalking. So she's coming out of work, you've got a gun, you force her into a vehicle. You said you just want to discuss things with her. Well, discussing matters with a gun is a little bit different than just having a conversation. So explain that to me, how you got to that point.
To that point right there, I mean, it really is a long story. I mean, we had kids. 2 of them were staying with me. Our son Jared, I believe, at the time, turned 19 that year. That a few weeks before the incident. Terry didn't acknowledge his birthday. That upset me highly, because Terry was always she was always a great mother. She always put the kids before herself, even before me. I used to joke with her about that, how she always put the kids before me. So that was out of character for her, not to even acknowledge her son's 19th birthday, and it was not long after that. Like I said, I kept trying to call her, to find out what the situation was. I'm not trying to throw stones at her. She got, she was with people that were basically controlling her actions, keeping her from her family, or even discussing anything with me, that had to do with our children. And I guess that just pushed me over the edge at that time. And I felt like that was the only way I was going to get an opportunity to speak with her over any of this.
was to force her into a vehicle with a gun. And then according to the report that during this time that you drove back and forth for several hours with her. And that, you were waving the gun at her and that you were saying, that you had nothing to live for. Because she left you.
Man, that's inaccurate. We drove,
Right.
yes, there was no waving of no weapon, none of that, when she said, and I'm trying to recall this at one particular point when she said, that's why you pointed at a gun with me. That's when I realized something wasn't right there. And it turned out that she had her cell phone going on a 911 call. And that's what she wanted 911 to hear, that that a weapon was being waved around in the vehicle, and no weapon was being waved nowhere.
And what was the weapon?
Excuse me?
Where was the weapon?
In my waistband.
In your waistband.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So do you understand why she'd have been scared to death?
Oh, I am, and I apologized a long time ago to her, about this, because I never meant to torment her, stress her out. I mean, she could be honest and tell you that I'd rather hurt myself than hurt her. She one time, and let me give you this a little quick little story. One time she was watching my goddaughter in my sister's apartment, which was my parents' garage was converted. And I went out one night with the guys, and I come back and I drank a little too much, and she always had this cute little way of moving her finger back and forth like this. And playfully, I went to grab it, and I think her finger broke. And I cried harder than she did, because in all the years that we been together or was together, I never laid a hand on her in anger.
Really?
Exactly.
And you accidentally broke her finger. Just by
Well, when she was waving it around, like I said, she had a cute little way of pointing her finger around at me. I went and grabbed, playfully grab it, and she moved her hand, and it broke a bone.
Gosh, I'm so glad you brought that up. Okay, well, let me ask you one more question. So you're totally accepting now of the fact that she's divorced from you, and your attitude is going to be to have no contact with her whatsoever, even by way of through your children, because you said you want to contact your son.
No, all I would want is she's raising the two children of our youngest son. I would like the opportunity to, I did have a relationship going with them over the phone. I would like a physical relationship with those two grandchildren.
That would have to be looked into, because that might put you close to her, and that might be something that she would feel threatened by.
Well, I mean, like I said, it wouldn't have to be, with, her per se. We have, there could be intermediaries.
Okay. All right.
Ma'am,
Yes.
I did get the information. We do have a domestic abuse impact program that's going to kick off here. He can go into it.
Yeah.
It'll be about 7 months. And he was released from mental health follow-up with no follow-up needed in 2022.
Okay, that's wonderful. So that's a wonderful program. That speaks specifically to the crime. Thank you so much, Warden. I'm finished with my questions.
I just have one question. Mr. Matthew, what happened in 2018 that the light bulb came on? Because, I know how many write-ups you've had. And I saw the nature of the write-ups. But since 2018, you haven't had any. What was the epiphany? What was the turning point?
Well, a lot of it had to do with the loss of two of my sons. You know, I mean, I should have, you know, consider whatever our differences were. I should have been there for my former wife and my daughter-in-law and two grandsons when my son Jason passed, and I should have been there for her when my granddaughter and grandson, you know, found my son deceased, our youngest son deceased in her home, and I wasn't able to be there for her, and I should have been, as you know, as a father. But you know, we raise our kids, you know, hoping that that they turn out better than us. Well, one of my sons, my middle boy, Jared, he apparently he's wiser than I am, because, and I still have it to this day on my tablet, where he told me, you know, that, you know, stop blaming everybody, you know, you put yourself there, nobody else put yourself there. And that made me realize, you know, that, you know, I mean, it woke me up, you know, it made me, you know, when I read that, it made me want to do better. It gave me an opportunity to set goals, you know, and I believe I achieved all that you know, the goals I set for myself.
Okay, so I'm I'm still not sure what happened in 2018. So you're saying that you just realized when your son made that comment that you needed to do better.
Yes, ma'am. At that particular point, I stopped blaming people. You know, I accepted responsibility in my heart and in my mind for my actions, and it was time, you know, to start doing the right thing.
So when did you take Thinking for a Change? What year? Have you had Thinking for a Change?
Yes, ma'am. As a matter of fact, I was in the very first class here, 2016.
2016. Okay. If there's no other questions that the panel has, then we'll go ahead if the panel's prepared to vote.
Yes. Mr. John, my vote today is to grant with conditions that you go to the Louisiana Parole project, and upon leaving the Parole project, move to Florida. So my vote is to grant.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Stapleton.
My vote is to deny based upon the violent nature of the crime, also victim opposition and law enforcement opposition.
My vote would be to place some strong stipulations prior to your release. So I would grant with conditions that you had to meet before release, and also some conditions afterwards, specifically take the domestic abuse education class, and also go to the Parole Project and ICOTS out to Florida. But today your parole has been denied. We wish you well, and Warden, we appreciate you and your staff and what you've done today. Also, the comments by the warden influenced my decision. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the time is now 9:29 and we're signing off.